There is a virus that is going around and it has more or less crippled the world in many different ways. There is another aspect that is affecting each one of us internally, and that is something that we can do. We can take care of ourselves to take care of that inner pandemic that we have, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So let's look at the emotional needs cycle. As you can see, the emotional needs cycle is about starting with safety. And once we are all right, we feel we are safe, then we are ready to move to the comfort stage. And that is the comfort zone where everything is predictable, structured, and we are comfortable being in that. However, when we are in a comfortable stage, growth doesn't happen. Things are comfortable, but growth doesn't happen. Growth is always when we push ourselves to be outside the comfort zone. And once there is a sufficient degree of growth within us in whatever area we are looking at, then it becomes necessary to prune, to release some of the old stuff that is no longer needed for further growth, for further renewal. And that release process is what allows us to renew ourselves. And how does this need cycle impact us when we look at the current COVID situation? Firstly, if you just look at it physically, we are looking at the safety stage. And in that safety stage, most of us, we know as and when the COVID hit us, we were feeling pretty unsafe. Governments were feeling unsafe, countries were feeling unsafe, and we just went back into lockdown and many different ways in which we shut ourselves down just to feel safe. And over the months of managing this, over the months of understanding this, we have shifted from the safety stage to the comfort stage. And in that comfort stage, things are a little bit more predictable. Even in that state of unpredictability, there is a certain amount of structure, certain amount of predictability, and we are comfortable in that. And if you look at the inner world of emotions, a lot of us went through panic stage, went through helplessness stage to a certain stage of comfort. And many of us have also used this period to grow in ways that we couldn't have grown before COVID. And that is probably one of the areas where the online platforms have grown, the companies have grown, Zoom and other online platform companies. Companies have also started shifting, organizations to shift their training from offline mode to online mode. As a result, many of us had opportunities to take courses, to do things online that we couldn't have done otherwise. We couldn't have traveled to so many distant places. We were able to do all of that through the online training. So there has been a lot of growth as well in terms of the COVID situation. Now it is time for us to look at what next. Internally, everybody is like raring to let go of all the boundaries, all the limitations, and move forward with life. How do we do that in this cycle? We need to release, but the release process, releasing of whatever we want to release, is not possible as long as we are feeling unsafe or we want to be in our safe bubbles. So, internally, when you're just looking at our emotions, shifting ourselves out of feeling panic stricken, feeling like I need to contract and be in my own bubble, not talk to that many people, make sense of what is happening. Once I shift from that safety stage to a comfort stage, and then start experimenting with where can I grow? That's the growth stage. That is when I'm ready to release. And I feel at this point, most of us are tired of this process, this whole months and months of waiting and looking, and we are ready to move on. So, a simple process that we can use this framework to do that release and renewal is something like this. If I feel I am ready to release, first take stock. Always start with something that is positive. First take stock of all the areas that this COVID pandemic has allowed me to grow. Maybe not allowed me, but I have taken the opportunity in this last 18 months, 20 months to grow internally, to grow intellectually, to grow emotionally. Some of us have grown physically as well. So take stock of where is it that I have grown. Spend some time introspecting, reflecting, maybe journaling all the areas that I have grown. And once I'm able to acknowledge all these areas that I have grown, be grateful for all the areas that I have grown. The next stage then is to release. Using the strength of growth, using the foundation of all the growth that has been made possible, let's look at all the areas that I can now start releasing. And when we are looking at release, there are many different ways of releasing. A simple process, a very simple process, is to maybe just jot down and reflect on all the emotions, the so called negative emotions that have come up within me in the last 18 months. Fear, a sense of stagnation, a sense of anxiety. Many of us have faced difficulties. We have lost loved ones. We have had people that have gone up to ICUs and come back. So, all the emotions that I have faced in this period, let's just write it down. Let's acknowledge that these are the emotions, these are the challenges I have faced, and whichever ones I'm ready to let go of, just mentally visualize that I am ready to release this process, maybe into a fire, maybe into the water, maybe it's just vaporizing into the air. Whatever is my process of visualization, I can use that to start shifting myself into this release process, releasing all of these emotions, and then looking forward to what are the areas in which I can renew. So I'm using a sort of a sandwich approach, acknowledge all the growth areas, look at all that needs to be released, and then look at all the areas in which I can renew. If I'm able to use this kind of a sandwich process, maybe 10 minutes weekly for a couple of weeks, intentionally in our minds, within us, we will start shifting out of some of these emotions that are holding us hostage. With emotions, it's always that they have a lot of charge, electrical charge, and we find it difficult when I am one with the emotion. So if I'm angry and I am so caught up in that anger that I become one with that anger, it is very difficult for me to release the anger. But if I'm able to observe that anger at a distance, maybe not a great distance, but just a little distance, then I have created a separation between the anger and me. And when I create that separation, it becomes easier for me to release that anger. And in this map, you will realize self awareness is just under the entire need cycle. And that's because it is this awareness that gives us that differentiation between my emotions and myself. It creates that demarcation. Just a thin demarcation is good enough in the beginning. With practice, if I do this 10 minutes weekly or 10 minutes daily, that awareness expands. And the more the awareness expands, the more I'm not caught up in that emotion. It becomes easier for me to release that emotion. So try this process and let me know how it works for you. And I have a favor to ask of you. Normally, I don't make this request for the weekly calls. Please, if this resonates with you, share it. Even if you don't share it publicly, share it through messengers to people that you think would benefit from this release process. Collectively, all of us have been affected by the inner pandemic, and collectively, we can make a huge difference when we start doing that inner work, and then we support others in doing the inner work. As more and more of us start doing this inner work of the release and renewal, growth, release, renewal, when most of us start doing that, that matrix, that collective consciousness grows. And once that grows, others start finding it easier to do this as well. So the idea here is for us to do the work and then share it with people that you think would benefit. And then as more and more the collective chain grows, we can help all of us on this planet Earth come out of this inner pandemic of the COVID. The virus is the one external, but the inner pandemic that all of us have been drawn into, we can help each other, nudge each other to come out of that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here with me. This is Nirmala Shekhar signing off. Bye bye. Namaste.